The LA Rams, once again, Les Snead saying, F them picks. They trade a first rounder, a second rounder, and a third rounder to the Cleveland Browns to get the NFL two-time Defensive Player of the Year and one of the best defensive players of this century in Myles Garrett. And the Rams also send Pro Bowl young defensive end Jared Verse to Cleveland. So Jared Verse, first, second, and a third round pick in a couple of different years to get Myles Garrett back. Brad, I know you already said weeks ago you were picking the Rams to win the Super Bowl this year. They're going all in, despite drafting Ty Simpson a month plus ago. Every other move this year and this offseason has been to go all in, and now they get Myles Garrett. I mean, my goodness, the Rams are going to be a juggernaut this year, are they not?
Yes, they are. And they're a team that should win the whole shebang. If they don't, it's going to fall really short of the expectation. They have to go all in. I mean, Matthew Stafford's got maximum 2 years left. Signed that 1 year extension just recently. So that was the first move that they made. Then Les Snead goes, I got an ace up my sleeve. And they decided to make this colossal move that nobody saw coming. There was rumors around that maybe Myles Garrett was going to be on the trade block. But I didn't have any expectation to go to the LA Rams. I think it's a win-win, honestly, for both franchises. I mean, Cleveland is still rebuilding brick by brick, slowly but surely. Obviously, they have an area need a quarterback, at least we think. Whether it's going to be Deshaun Watson back to what he was prior to the pair Achilles injuries from the days that we saw in Houston, or the more recent version that's been bogged down by those injuries. Of course, a lot of the off-the-field transgressions that he was a part of. And then, too, when you look at the Cleveland Browns and various injuries that really socked that franchise, it's never really kind of delivered on in any kind of promise whatsoever. Though Shedeur Sanders showed a little bit of upside after I lampooned him, and I ate an entire plate of crow as a result, because he definitely exceeded my very low expectations last season. But so they got a massive haul in return, a lot of draft capital. Jared Verse is a guy that is a stud. There's no question about it. He's going to be the anchor, the linebacker core of that entire defense for years to come. But the Rams are just like, look, we've got one of the best wide receiver cores in the NFL. I know a lot of people are like, well, they swung and missed. They took Ty Simpson in round 1. They should have gone with a wide receiver, get that wide receiver 3. But there was a method to that madness, as that deal really kind of allowed him to make this deal as an end result. And, I don't really think they need a WR3. They have suitable weapons on that field right now and depth at that position, so they can rotate a number of guys at that WR3. When you got Devontae Adams, when you got Puka Nacua, who's an absolute beast and who's going to have another monster season, I can see a lot of 12 personnel. We've heard rumors they may feature like 13 personnel, which is kind of wild and crazy. 3 tight end sets. They've got a strong ground game and a 1-2 punch there with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. They got a top 5 offensive line. And now, Pat, to go along with Trent McDuffie and that defensive backfield, really shoring up that area, which was an area of weakness last year. They get the future Hall of Famer, arguably the best living defensive player of this generation, who's still just 30 years old, probably got at least a couple of incredible caliber years left in him, in Myles Garrett. So, yes, they got pocket rockets right now that were dealt to them face down. They got these big, fat stack of chips, and they're pushing it all in, as they should, because you got a 2-year window with Myles Garrett, the part of this franchise, and, of course, Matthew Stafford, long in the tooth at the end of his career. So you got 2 years to get this done. They today at BetMGM, when I woke up this morning, they were 8-1 to win the Super Bowl post-Garrett acquisition. It sliced $2 off that price. 6-1. That's how big, that's how colossal, that's how mammoth of a move this is, really tilting the scales in to the Rams' favor. They are, without question, the team to beat in the NFL this season, and you're on notice, 72 Dolphins. It would not shock me at all, Pat, if they ran the damn table.
That's not a hot take. It's certainly something I believe. They have no weaknesses. Fear the Rams this season in the National Football League.
Wow. Well, I certainly think that's a hot take because don't get me wrong. On paper, they're probably the best team in the NFL right now. They got the reigning Super Bowl champions in their own division, Brad. You think they're beating the Seahawks twice this year? You think they're beating the 49ers twice this year? You think they've got a schedule that is fairly difficult and they're not going to lose a single game? Nope. That's a hot take. I like it. I think it's sizzling hot, though. I mean, look, we all want to be, and I think sometimes in the world we live in where we have a big trade like this, everybody from you and me who do this for a living, everybody that's listening to the show right now that talks with their friends about sports at a bar, at work, in their group chats, we get a trade like this and the immediate reaction is to say, so-and-so got fleeced on this trade. So-and-so got smoked on that trade. So-and-so won this trade. Brad, it might be vanilla to say, I think this was an amazing trade for both teams. If we're grading it, I give both teams an A. The Rams obviously get an A. They go all in and F them. It's one thing if F them picks hasn't worked before. They did this a couple of years ago to get Stafford, and they traded Goff to the Lions, and they won a Super Bowl that very year. So now they're the first team in NFL history to have the reigning MVP and the reigning Defensive Player of the Year on their squad. They're absolutely stacked. They came up one game short of the Super Bowl last year, losing to the eventual champion Seahawks. Stafford coming off his MVP season, and now you've added Myles Garrett. I mean, so they get an A. You know, a first-round pick for them in 2027, even if they don't meet expectations, or what do they? You think they have a chance to go 17-0? I mean, we probably think NFC title game. So that first round pick, yes, every first round pick in the NFL is valuable. This isn't like the NBA, but that's pick 29. That's pick 30. Could be pick 32 if they win a Super Bowl. And then you've given up a second round pick next year and a third round pick in 2 years from now. Okay, the Jared Verse thing. Yes. Here's the argument. Is Jared Verse ever going to be as good as Myles Garrett? If he is, so be it. If he's not, which he would have to be one of the best defensive players of this century, then it's worth it for the Rams. Now, they're paying Myles Garrett over $40 million because they take on his contract, right? So that now makes it like they just keep pushing the future back. And that's why I guess now, and I still don't like it, but at least you've tried to secure your quarterback of the future with Ty Simpson. Other than that, Brad, they got a bunch of players now. Puka Nacua is one of them, and he just talked a couple of days ago about maybe not getting a contract extension this offseason. Now you can't pay Puka Nacua this offseason. At least I don't know how the hell they would do that. So now you're looking at 2028, 2029, 2030 for the LA Rams, and it might be bleak. But I feel like we said that a couple of years ago when they traded for Stafford, and then they signed all these great defensive players. Remember, they got Jalen Ramsey, and we're like, how can they keep doing this? Like, they're going to be terrible in a couple of years. Well, they're still pretty freaking good. And so the Rams get an A. And for me, the Browns get all these draft picks. They continue to stockpile first-round picks. And again, it might be a late first rounder, but with the fact that they might be a bottom 5 team in the football, again, you've got an extra bullet to combine in a trade if you wanted to move up next year to get your quarterback. You'd have your pick of the litter. I mean, you could just use the 2 first-round picks and continue to build a very young, very promising team in the future. And again, is Jared Verse ever going to be as good as Myles Garrett? Probably not, but you do have a Pro Bowl pass rusher that you don't have to pay until next offseason as well, who's very, very young. So look, man, I have trouble saying that both these teams don't get an A because I think they do.
Yeah, I think they get an A with flying colors, quite honestly. There's no losers in this trade at all. This is an even, Steven, fair and square transaction that was made. Everybody wins in this equation. And look, Cleveland, we're going to talk about them a little bit later on tonight in our full breakdown of the 3-point stance, our season preview of this franchise. But I love a lot of the offseason moves that they made. I love their draft. I would have given them I think I gave an A- or a solid A in the NFL draft performance this year. Yeah, they had a plethora of picks early on, the 3 first rounders. Then in those opportunities, especially the wide position. I love acquisition of Casey Concepcion, a guy that really work underneath every single right route in the trees, separation skills, the open field. Boston, a guy can stretch the field and work outside the numbers, bigger bodied wide receiver. They're collecting the foundational pieces to build a successful team. Obviously, the key area is a quarterback, and we don't know what we're going to get with Deshaun Watson, but the leash isn't really too long on Watson. If he goes out and face plants early in the season, I think you're going to have a reinsertion, I think, in the starting lineup of Shedeur Sanders, maybe midpoint of the NFL regular season, see what he is made of down the home stretch, and maybe he can take that next step in his overall development. But maybe both don't work out. You have an incredible class of quarterbacks coming out of college next season. That's the expectation. And if they do royally suck, that's a good thing because they got all the draft capital in the world. They can solve their quarterback issues immediately. So I think Cleveland, if they make the right move at quarterback here in the next, year or two, I'm going to say they're 3 to 4 years away from being a true division title contender in the AFC North. I don't think that's outlandish to say. I don't think I'm snapping tendons in my arms when I'm making that statement. I like the pieces that they have right now on that roster on both ends of the field and, just make the right investments, stay the course, develop guys, and you're going to produce a winner. You're going to produce a playoff team. And then back to the Rams. Again, win now. Win as often as you possibly can. My friend at ESPN, Mike Clay, gives the Rams, he updated this information after the Garrett trade, a 57% or greater win probability to win in every game, Pat. Every game this year. He projects them to win 13.3 games exactly. Again, I don't think it's remotely crazy to say I've lost my damn mind when I state that they could push the 72 Dolphins to have perfection this year. They are built to destroy the competition. I understand they have the third hardest overall strength of schedule of any NFL team. They're going to be tested. You already laid that case out with the Seahawks. I laid the case out with San Francisco. That division is going to be rocking and rolling with the exception of the punching bag that is the Arizona Cardinals. But my God, if everybody, it's a giant if, it is a violent game, all the key pieces stay healthy, they're going to be unblemished. They're going to be untouched. I believe it. And every fiber of my being, ram it home. It's going to be LA's year.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fault you one bit for saying the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. I couldn't really fault you a couple of months ago or 2 months ago when you said it as well. I still think 17-0 would be crazy. And you considering the fact that you're picking them to win a Super Bowl, 20-0? First time ever? That would be absurd. But if they stay healthy. Yeah. Well, look, I'm not going to fault you one bit for saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. It's still too early for me. I want to see how training camp progresses before I make a Super Bowl pick. But I think undefeated is crazy. One more note I want to add on the Browns. I got to give, because I've been very critical of him many, many times. And I think they had a great draft. You and I both think the Browns had a great draft. Andrew Berry, I give him a ton of credit with this trade because apparently, reportedly, Les Snead and the Rams kept freaking calling him, kept asking, kept saying, what's it going to take to get Myles Garrett? What's it going to take to get Myles Garrett? We'll give you picks. We'll give you a first-round pick. We'll give you a second-round pick. And Andrew Berry kept telling him, nope, not happening. He's untouchable. Only if and maybe if you would consider trading Jared Verse. And the Rams reportedly were like, we're not trading Jared Verse. And then June 1st hit. And they called back, or I guess this was kind of unofficially done over the weekend, but officially now on June 1st. So it can save the Browns some money for trading Myles Garrett post June 1, which it saved the Eagles a ton of money trading A.J. Brown. That was official today. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But Andrew Berry was not going to he was not going to get fleeced. And he very well could have, because Myles Garrett requested a trade last year, and then they paid him a boatload of money. And you can make the argument, despite the fact that he's the greatest defensive player in football right now, and he's only 30, how many more years of his prime are you going to waste? Because you and I both think the Browns are going to be a pretty damn mediocre team again because they don't have the quarterback yet. Now that they get Jared Verse and they get all these picks, I give the Browns credit. They could have easily folded, and they could have just said, all right, we got a first. I guess there's nothing we can do. We're wasting Myles Garrett's prime. No, now they get back Jared Verse and those picks as well. So I give the Browns a ton of credit for this.